time like that about 2 years ago. Life was going pretty well. I was living in San Francisco, working for the Gap. I worked with a really amazing team. We worked for our Gap Canada kids and baby stores. And our job was literally to stylishly outfit Canadian children in denim. So we would sit around the room and talk about launching skinny jeans for babies. It was a pretty fun and exciting job. And I'd been with Gap for about 10 years at that point, and I walked into work one day and found out that I'd lost my job. They eliminated my job, my team, over 100 people in our building. Our jobs were being eliminated and they were being moved to New York, with or without us. But if any of you have ever been through any bigger organizational changes like this, it was going to happen over 4 months. So there was this weird, awkward time of transition where some people just jumped ship while other people kind of sat around hoping that something would come their way, and others just didn't know what they were going to do. So a lot of, as you can imagine, fear and anxiety about this. And so I was kind of weirdly excited, and I'm in change management now, so I actually thrive on change and helping people see the future. If you ever want to know what the next 6 or 12 months look like, I'm not a fortune teller, but I definitely have an ability to kind of see that future. And so I called my boyfriend up and we went out and actually had cocktails that night and celebrated this fear and unknown and excitement. And once I kind of got my head around the situation, I started to think of things a little bit differently. I started thinking of work as more optional. I mean, they eliminated my job, so I was like, well, I guess I'll go into work today. And, and others decided not to. But I started to think, like, what do I really want to be doing? What's the cool stuff in my life that I should be doing? And this is a little side tip that you probably won't learn at a leadership clinic, but if you ever really want to know what your employees think of you, of their job, of where they want to go, just lay everybody off at once. It was a couple of months of some really interesting conversations. And as I kind of was going through that time and reflecting for this speech, what things I could share or what helped me get through that time, there were really 3 lessons. And I used to teach public speaking here at the university, so the 3 lessons that we're going to learn today. But you should have a card in your hand, and we won't have the lights up yet, but when you need to use the card, we'll turn the lights up a little bit. But the 3 lessons we're going to talk about today are landing the high five, live a sabbatical in your everyday life, and shoot the moon. And so the first lesson is I had a really high five awakening, I like to call it. So I'm a runner, or I know there were some people that I run with sometimes that might be here today. I'm a slow jogger and I own it. I'm not really a runner. So I was going through Golden Gate Park about 6 or 7 years ago. And as I'm running through the park, there is this petite, vibrant woman running at me with her hand in the air, yelling like, "High five, good job." And I'm like, okay. And I just kind of kept running past her. And as I ran past her in this high five, I kind of felt a little jump in my step. And I was like, that was amazing. Like, who high fives you in the middle of a park? And I went home and I told my boyfriend about it. And it was so impactful that obviously I'm sharing it with you today. And then fast forward about a year later, and I was at Gap and having lunch with a new friend that I'd been introduced to. And I still remember where we had lunch because there was a mobile truck that was selling Gap jeans and tacos. To this day, I don't know where that was dreamt, but if you entrepreneurs are looking for some kind of idea, I recommend sell the jeans first and then the tacos for the women in the audience. I was like, why would you want to eat tacos and then try on jeans? So as I was talking to Sarah, and she started with all this crazy passion telling me how she liked to go running and then throw out high fives to random runners, I realized in that moment, I'm like, oh my God, you were my high fiver. Like, you were the woman who ran past me in the park last year and high-fived me, and we realized, yep, we run the same route, and yep, I was your high-fiver. And so Sarah and I became really fast friends, and we ran a lot in Golden Gate Park. And if anyone's ever been to Golden Gate Park, it's just full of nature, which we get here all the time. But there's actually a flower garden that we would run by, and she would literally stop and say, "Can we just smell the flowers?" And so we'd stop and smell the roses, and then we would go about our day. And that early time with Sarah really made me start to think about, I think, what Ferris Bueller taught most of us Gen Xers, that life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And so even when you're moving really, really quickly, you have an opportunity to land a high five. Right now, I just want you to turn to somebody in the audience and high five them. Like Ben said, get some momentum. All right. It sounds like you landed some good high fives. Hopefully, given that it's dark, nobody accidentally missed somebody and slapped them. I apologize if that happened to anybody out there. But now I want to teach you what I learned about landing the high five. So we high five, you throw out a high five and you go about your business. But on your card, we don't need the lights up, I don't think, for this one. It says high five on the top. Just draw a little bullseye. Or anywhere on the card if you're not a rule follower. A lot of entrepreneurs are like, I want to put it on the back really big. You can do what you want. And now that you're a little bit focused, now we're thinking about the high five. Now pick somebody that you're going to high five. And I want you to yell in the moment at them like, awesome job, way to be here, glad you're here. And then a little trick that I learned from my friend the other night is it's all about the elbow. Focus on their elbow and you'll land the high five. So pick your person, throw words of encouragement, and then land the high five. All right, so a little bit more enthusiasm with that high five. And it really didn't take much longer to do that high five than it did the first one. And so on my runs, I find out that sometimes you get really good high fives, sometimes you totally whiff. And honestly, I run at Golden Gate Park a lot, so it was last Tuesday night I did my little non-scientific study. I'm in the business and liberal arts world, so there was no scientific study to this one, but I threw out 18 high fives on my run in Golden Gate Park, 3.5 miles, 18 high fives, 14 landed, 3 people laughed out loud, 1 woman totally whiffed, and then 3 people just didn't hear me. I wasn't loud enough, but I had this joy of intention that I was at least putting it out there. And some guy, I think, almost tripped, turning around like, what did she just do? And I was like, oh, sorry, keep going, keep going. And occasionally I'll throw out my high five and people duck because they don't know why you would be throwing a hand at them. So it's the joy and the intention of giving the high five. And I think of the high five, it's very literal. I think most of us have done high fives before this. It's not revolutionary. But it's in that moment when you're moving fast to stop, and it's just as easy to give a really good focused and intentional high five as it is to just throw your hand and flail and maybe miss. So I think about that with your employees, with your customers, with the people who are helping fund you, with the people who are helping provide those skill sets that you don't have, how quickly you can give them that high five, that, hey, thanks, I really appreciate that, whatever it is that they have brought to your idea. So, spoiler alert, that's the easy lesson, and that kind of goes along with Ben's, get moving, get the nervousness out of you. But the second lesson is, live a sabbatical in your everyday life. My friend Sarah kind of interprets this more, do the cool stuff first and do it now. Like, don't put off the cool stuff and think like, oh, I had dinner the other night with a guy and he's like, yeah, in 12 years we're gonna retire and live where we really want to. And you're like, why 12 years? So think about a sabbatical. Most of us are around universities or, LBCon's part of the university. Sabbatical is sort of that protected amount of time where you can learn a new skill, do research, take time off, travel, do cool things. And I kind of challenge you to think about how do you make that part of your day? And I've been thinking about this for about 2 years, like live in a sabbatical in your everyday life. And I think for me, I think about it if, the old saying, if you didn't have to work, what would you do? Or if you're an entrepreneur, what are the things that you are super passionate about, and while your business starts to grow, what are the things you don't love to do? And how do you find people to help you continue to think of, this is a sabbatical, I'm doing exactly what I want to be, I'm learning what I want. I don't want to be learning this, and I can probably find somebody who's really good at that to kind of complement me. So getting back to my friend Sarah, there's something I haven't shared yet. Sarah, when I met her, she was about 30 years old, and she was, at that point, a survivor of brain cancer. And she got, when she was diagnosed with brain cancer, her response was, I'm going to start running marathons. Not, I'm going to start running, but I'm going to start running marathons. And so she ran marathons. She ran Big Sur, Marine Corps, Oklahoma City, and she was then diagnosed again 5 years into her recovery with brain cancer, and her response was, I'm going to keep running, and no matter what, I'm just going to, this is the cool stuff. I got all this other stuff going on, but the cool stuff is the running. And so she kind of built her life out of running with our friends, and so my do the cool stuff first. She was in the middle of doing chemo, and we ran a 15K in Golden Gate Park, which I know not all entrepreneurs love math. So 9.3 miles, and ran the whole thing. It was like Thursday chemo, Sunday 9.3 miles. And of course, we jogged it at our own pace, but you still got it. It was, this is my cool stuff, and I'm not gonna let bad circumstances stop me from doing the thing that I love. And so, when I got laid off, remember the fabulous day of walking in and losing the job, I didn't think I had a big choice to make. I really thought, I'm done. Like I'd been through many reorgs, and finally I thought, this is it. I'm gonna take some time off. I'd done an MBA through the University of Wyoming remotely while working, and I was just kind of tired. And so, what surprised me though was that I started asking myself, truly, what is my cool stuff? Like, what's the stuff I really want to be doing in my life? And I realized it wasn't necessarily leaving the job at the moment, but it was doing different stuff. And so I started to raise my hand and say, hey, you know what? It looks like I see a need in this organization as you go through the transition. How about I help you out for a while? Because I would like to stay in San Francisco a little while longer, keep running with Sarah, kind of keep doing some nonprofit work I'm doing, and this would help you as well. And so I ended up extending my time with this organization that was literally laying off all of us. I was like, but I want to go learn new things. And so I don't know if any of you have done StrengthsFinder, but kind of as I was mentioning earlier, I'm futuristic, I'm maximizer, and I'm strategic. So global reorganizations were like, I want to be part of this. And so I became really present about landing my high fives, being really in the moment, because it was all new stuff I'd never done before. And it was really scary. But as Ben said, sometimes you just have to go with that fear. And so I want you now to, and then I did actually take 6 months off. I mean, I did lose my job. And then I got to do the really cool stuff. So I said, I'm taking 6 months off, and I skied in Jackson Hole for 6 weeks. Then I went to Costa Rica and took what I called the beginner surf camp, where on day 8 I got it by myself. And then I spent last summer in Missoula. And I think coming back to Missoula, where I have so many roots and just so much appreciation for this community, was my cool stuff. So I'm like, I was able to prioritize it and go for it. So now I want you to take out your card, so we'll bring the lights up just a little bit. And you've got a thing that says sabbatical. So I'm gonna give you, because we're kind of on a time crunch, I'm gonna give you a minute to write down 3 things that you want to, your cool stuff. And whether it's whatever you're doing at work that you love and you want to keep doing that, that's your cool stuff. Whether it's having lunch with your kids at school every day, or traveling to Spain and learning Spanish, write down 3 things that are your cool thing.